If you've been wondering how to strengthen your core, protect your pelvic floor, and set yourself up for a smoother pregnancy and postpartum recovery, this episode is for you. I'm joined by Dr. Jena Bradley, a physical therapist, mom of four, and expert in helping moms feel strong and confident in their bodies. We're diving into the best exercises for fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum recovery, plus simple habits that you can start today, even if you're short on time. Stick around because this conversation is packed with game-changing tips to help you feel your best on your journey to motherhood. Feeling like this whole baby-making journey is never going to work out? You've done it all, diet changes, supplements, tracking your cycle, and yet the pregnancy test is negative. It's so frustrating, and you're asking yourself, why isn't this happening for us? I'm Susan Gladstein, a holistic fertility coach and mom to 7, including 2 miracle babies after a vasectomy reversal, and I get it. Being told everything looks fine by doctors while still feeling stuck can leave you feeling hopeless and confused. On this podcast, I'll share practical, natural ways to support your fertility without all the overwhelm. Forget the everything's normal talk and the rush into fertility treatments. I'm here to show you a better way. If you're ready to take practical steps that fit with God's plan for your family, you're in the right place. I truly believe that you can have the baby you've been praying for. I'm super excited because I have Dr. Jena here, who, I don't know if you know this, but her superpower is all about schedules and routines, which I could definitely use some help with in trying to balance all of the things of life. But she's a physical therapist, mom of 4, and I actually found her through her podcast. And I would love for you to tell me about your podcast and how you kind of got into this world of pre and postnatal and physical therapy and just juggling life with kids.
Yeah, thank you for having me, first of all. And my journey started back in, I would say, high school years where I just loved to work out. Honestly, my mom was gaining some weight, and I'm thinking, I don't want to gain weight, so I'm going to exercise consistently. And I just loved it. And from there, I thought, let's go to college and do some kind of profession around exercise. And through guidance, I landed in physical therapy, and it's the dream job. I absolutely love physical therapy. And from there, I met my husband at physical therapy school. So we're both physical therapists. We went to the University of Pittsburgh together, and I've been practicing since 2009. So well past 15 years. And it's been quite an amazing career. But after getting pregnant several times, I've had 4 kids. After having my 4th baby, and just, using the knowledge from physical therapy, but also my passion for exercise, I continued to work out throughout my pregnancies and throughout my postpartum journey. But when I had my 4th baby and I'd walk around with my kids tagging along, people started asking me questions about how I was able to maintain my body after having 4 kids, and specifically around my stomach and my core, and how did I get such a flat stomach after having 4 kids. And I realized that I knew what to do. I knew there were 2 things in particular, which we'll talk about, but most moms didn't have any guidance from their doctors, from their midwives. They were just, given the education on how to take care of their baby or how to breastfeed, but no one was talking to them about how to take care of their own bodies. And that's when I developed my blog called Live Core Strong, which was specifically for moms who wanted to know how to safely exercise during pregnancy and postpartum recovery. And I would teach these moms through my blog and through my book, Postpartum Ab Rehab, that later became a program, Postpartum Ab Rehab, my 6-month group coaching program, teaching moms how to strengthen their core after having a baby, how to rehab their bodies after having a C-section, how to manage their diastasis recti gap the safe way in their home so that they can, they have busy lives. We all know we have busy lives as moms, and sometimes we need to just take care of ourselves from the luxury of our home. And so having this online space has been just a really great resource for these moms. And then from there, it went into my podcast, the Fit Postpartum Mom podcast. So now I'm just reaching so many more moms, helping them with this fitness journey throughout motherhood. And it's just been a great time helping these women.
I love that because in my prior world, I spent about the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years in the health and fitness space as well. And it's interesting that you talk about like your mom, watching your mom and thinking like, oh, I don't want to do that. Because I came from a space where I was super active growing up. And then I kind of got into a space where it's just like I was diving into everybody else but myself and I let myself go. And admittedly, I yelled at my kids more than I would have liked to, and I was like constantly stressed and just not feeling great. And I kind of hit this point where I was like, okay, I'm at rock bottom and something's got to give. Like, I need to work out. And even my kids would interrupt me at times when I was working out, because again, I was at home working out as well, just because that was the only thing that I could find that would work consistently. But even they would come and interrupt me, and I'm like, fine, I'm not going to do it. And they would say, like, no, 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 go ahead. We'll be quiet. We'll just be over here. But then they kind of watched and would join in. And they were older by the time I sort of figured this out as a habit. But now I have the luxury of starting all over with a 4-year-old where that's just part of her life. And so I got really passionate about helping moms make that be their family legacy. For so many people, it's not. Like, I had lots of clients that were like, their moms were chronically on diets, so that's just what they did. So I'm curious, what do you see and how does that sort of like your mom and generationally and what you see in your kids, like how do your habits impact them?
Oh, it's remarkable. It's one of my favorite things as being a mom is teaching them these healthy habits. And I always say some of my favorite memories of being a mom to littles, and I'm talking about little as in 6 months, 12 months, is working out with them. And I would attach them to my body. I would have them lie next to me on the floor. They would go for these long walks in the stroller. And it's just something that we do together. And that's our fun time together, is working out together. And a funny memory that I have is, my little 3-year-old at the time, where I normally would work out maybe after we'd have breakfast and then we would, brush our teeth and get ready for the day. And then we'd do a workout together. And if I skipped that routine, they would call me out on it and say, Mommy, we need to work out now. Like, let's go do our workout. And I was the one that was trying to skip out, and they're my accountability partner. I have that all over my podcast and all over my blog about the best accountability partner we have is our children. They are creatures of habits. And if we establish that routine and get them involved in that routine, they will keep us on that routine, that fit.
I can attest to that because my 4-year-old is the same. She gets on to me if I'm not working out. But again, I had already spent, in the 2 years that I waited in our process after my husband's vasectomy reversal, like I really got intentional on my own health and really focused on making it a habit because it hadn't been. And I'm forever grateful for the time that I spent like leading up to getting pregnant, really building that core foundation. But yeah, she'll call me out if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, which I feel like I don't know, I kind of wear that as a badge of honor. Like I've made an impression on her. But I'm curious, like, because most of the people that are listening to this podcast, like maybe they're in the process of trying to conceive. Some of them may be early pregnancy, but what do you feel are some of the most important exercises or even just physical habits to start implementing so that you have a good, strong, and healthy pregnancy?
Yeah, habits are key. Let's talk about habits first, because without the habit in place, we're not going to do the workouts. And so the big thing is, when are you going to consistently work out and finding that ideal time? It doesn't have to be the same time. If everybody's saying work out in the morning, which typically I say that, but that's not your time, then don't do it. You do what works for you, what gives you the most excitement, where you have the most energy. So pick a time and stick with that time. And you have to basically make an appointment for yourself, and nothing can get in the way of that appointment. So you have to set it as a priority in that time block. So I'm a big advocate for time blocking. So we can talk more about that later, but pick your time block of the day and make it a habit to show up to that time block. And that's your exercise time block. But the exercises that I always recommend if you're pregnant, trying to conceive, I always incorporate some kind of cardio. And I'm not talking about running, I'm talking about low impact cardio. So a gentle walk or, fast paced walk is probably my go-to one. It doesn't take a lot of thought. You just put on some shoes and you start walking. So you got to find a good spot to go walking, whether you do have a treadmill or a walking pad, or you have a nice park in your area. Just find your spot that you know that you can always show up to, even when life is busy. You just know, I have to go to this spot. So definitely walking. And then we always want to incorporate pelvic floor, core exercises, and leg exercises. Unfortunately, I don't put a lot of emphasis on arms during conception and pregnancy time. There's just not a big need for that. If you love arms, add that in there, but I'd rather you focus on the core and the lower body because that's really going to help with childbirth. So some exercises are deep breathing exercises. So I love doing box breathing. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but box breathing is when you are breathing in for 4 seconds and then holding for 4 seconds, and then breathing out slowly for 4 seconds and then holding for 4 seconds. That's a really easy one. If you can just think in your mind, I have to do my box breathing. You are doing the 4 walls of the box for 4 seconds, and you're going to really notice an improvement. And it's actually really good for your mood too. So there's so many benefits to the breathing. So if you want to start with anything right now, if you just take one thing away from this, we have a lot to talk about, but that would be a great starting point, is box breathing.
Well, and even to the point of that, like, there's so much about the process of trying to conceive that's extremely stressful. And if your body is sensing any amount of stress, like, it's not going to be a conducive environment to welcome another life form. And so even just implementing breath work, box breathing, is going to reduce your cortisol levels and your stress levels. Like, I mean, it's something that it took me 40 years to figure out that when my daughter was 2, anytime she would fall or she was upset, she was trying to regulate her emotions, like, I would just demonstrate this deep breathing and she would follow suit. And you can literally like see the stress melt off of somebody's face. And so I got to where I would practice it, you know, driving in the car to avoid road rage or whatever. It just made me a much more calm mom, but it wasn't something that had ever been modeled or explained to me until much later in life. But I can see, even the other day, I was having pregnancy hormones and crying myself to sleep, and my toddler comes over and pats me on the back and she says, just take a deep breath. And she starts doing it to
Oh,
me, like lecturing me on it. And I was like, I actually did feel a lot better. So
yeah.
it
It's
makes
a
a
good starting
huge
point.
difference. I
For sure.
love that. Well, even talking about like core strength and pelvic floor, because I actually have gotten a few questions from some of my clients about that in preparation for pregnancy, and even postpartum, because that journey can be, you know, after you have a baby, it doesn't really end, right? But what kinds of things do you recommend to help women optimize their core strength, their pelvic floor health prior to pregnancy to help make childbirth and postpartum recovery a bit smoother?
Yeah, these are the two that, after you master this breathing, the next thing you want to move towards is the pelvic floor and the core. And let's just put those two together. Sometimes I talk about them separately, but in this situation, let's put those two together because you need a strong core and pelvic floor for childbirth. And this strength that you get during pregnancy definitely carries over into postpartum. It makes postpartum recovery so much easier. So maybe that is one of the main reasons why I recovered so well year after year with all my babies, is because I knew that and I put an emphasis on it. So Kegels are the go-to exercise for pelvic floor exercises. So Kegels are when you tighten the inner deep muscles of your pelvic floor. So inside your pelvis, inside your vagina, those areas, you are contracting the pelvic floor muscles as if you're trying to stop the flow of pee. So that is the easiest way I can describe it to women is if you are needing to go to the bathroom really badly and you just had a whole bunch of Starbucks and you're stuck in your car and you have nowhere to go to the bathroom, you're going to squeeze these muscles to help the pee from not coming out. Okay. So, right now, as we're talking, I want you to think about contracting those deep pelvic floor muscles. And that can be really hard if you're pregnant. It's hard because you have so much pressure from your baby, from your uterus going down on these pelvic floor muscles. So you might as well start now engaging these muscles before becoming pregnant, while you're pregnant and before childbirth, just to get the strength engaged in your pelvic floor. And then, a lot of trauma happens as we give birth through the vaginal canal. So we will have to use these muscles again and re-engage these muscles again during postpartum recovery. And then the core muscles, the main one is your transverse abdominis. And this is a deep inner core muscle that we don't see. We don't see it on our body. It's inside. It's not the six pack, but this is the key muscle that I teach in my program, Postpartum Ab Rehab. It's a very difficult muscle to engage by just saying, hey, do some sit-ups. We're not doing sit-ups to engage this muscle. We have to do deep, pelvic tilting. We have to bring our belly button down. There's a lot of fine tuning to get this muscle engaged, but abdominal bracing is a great exercise. So I teach abdominal bracing in a free program, a free course, which I can give you guys the link to that. It's livecorestrong.com/class. And I teach you how to engage the transverse abdominis and how to do this exercise for an entire week, how many reps, how many sets, how long to hold it for. But the key thing is, when you're holding your abdominal bracing exercise, you want to hold it for 8 seconds long. And that's really, really important to help engage that muscle. Now, you can do this while you're pregnant. I teach a lot of women how to do this during pregnancy, and you can do this again postpartum. So this muscle is the most important muscle for your core, and it will really help with childbirth too. So all of these muscles just play a big role all throughout motherhood. There's really no stopping or starting to it. It's just keep going with these muscles. And you always hear about women who, after they have babies and they're just leaking and they're having pelvic floor issues, they're having pain with intercourse, they're working out and then they get like a little dribble. That's because of pelvic floor weakness. There's a lot of things.
I really appreciate that you said that because when I got pregnant with my now 4-year-old at 40, I almost, I don't know, I guess like when I was young and maybe dumb, but I sort of would like kind of half laugh at people that are like, oh, I just peed a little and I laughed or whatever. And then all of a sudden it became my reality. And I was like, oh, this is what they're talking about. This is terrible. And so I personally went through when I was pregnant doing a lot of core work. And I will tell you that because I had a C-section, that all of that foundational stuff that I had done just to avoid peeing my pants really paid off even in my recovery to the point to where I was able to leave the hospital like 30 hours after my C-section to go home. Of course, it was COVID, so they were kicking people out of the hospital, thankfully. But by my, 6-week appointment, I was back to walking 5 miles. But like I healed so much more quickly because I had built all of that foundation leading up to that point. So I appreciate that you talk about that because it is a real thing, even though I used to kind of like, haha, you're silly or whatever. It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's not something that women have to live with for the rest of their lives. Physical therapy, exercises can completely fix it. And so if you feel like you're having trouble with it, we can get that fixed for sure.
And to that point, when it comes to pelvic floor sort of dysfunction or any sorts of issues like that, like obviously that's one of them, but what are some of the other signs that maybe somebody would want to know about if they don't know that what they're experiencing is a problem? What are some of those signs that maybe you've got some things going on that you can work on?
Yeah. So the pain with intercourse is one that a lot of women have that they don't know how to address or they think it's normal. That is something that I would take as a red flag. Let's get that looked at. Let's see a physical therapist. Another one is this heaviness feeling of, pressure and bulging down in your pelvic area. Down in your vagina, if you feel some kind of bulging sensation, that could be a prolapse. And that's something serious that you don't want to leave alone. You would want to get that looked at. And hopefully your doctor would catch that at a 6-week postpartum checkup. And so you can experience that during pregnancy. All of this can happen during pregnancy or postpartum. If you're just having pain with just sitting down alone, having pain, that's another sign of a pelvic floor dysfunction. But the big thing is the leakage with coughing, with exercising, with laughing. Those are some clear signs that let's get this looked at. So those are some of the main pelvic floor symptoms that I see.
And what kind of advice would you give to moms or even soon to be moms who might be experiencing these issues? Like, how can they address the symptoms through exercise or physical therapy? Obviously, I'm going to say go sign up for your course because you're going to teach them all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. So the big thing is let's figure out your symptoms and what are you experiencing? And then we would start with gentle Kegels. And so there's a variety of ways that we can do Kegels. But the best way, honestly, is to see someone in person. If you're having some severe symptoms and you're not seeing success with Kegel exercises at home, it is so crucial to see someone in person because they do need to palpate. Palpate is touching. They do need to palpate internally to see where is their tension, where is there maybe a malalignment in your pelvis. It can go so much more than just Kegels alone, and you'll get really hands-on treatment and better results seeing someone in person. So you can definitely look up in your area just pelvic floor physical therapist or women's health physical therapist in your area. And that's how I would get started if you are not seeing success at home doing your own Kegels.
That's super, super helpful. What do you recommend for first steps for moms who are maybe they're postpartum or even they're thinking about getting pregnant and their exercise has maybe been like not necessarily the priority? How can they safely ease into fitness without just being like totally overloaded and, spiking their cortisol and being stressed?
Yeah, I love the book Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've ever read it, but in that book, they talk about just starting with a 2-minute habit. And once you establish a 2-minute habit, then you can progress from there. So right now, I would just advise everybody find that time block, that workout time block, and find time for 2 minutes of exercise. And that sounds like, what's the point? It's so easy. Like you're not going to get anything accomplished. Like nothing's going to really be life changing with your body in 2 minutes. But it's all about just establishing the habit right now. And so find 2 minutes to roll out your yoga mat, do the deep breathing, or do the abdominal bracing exercise, or do your Kegels, one of the exercises that we talked about today, and spend 2 minutes doing that. And once you are really committed to that 2 minutes, then I would say maybe about a week or 2 weeks. If you can do 2 minutes for about a week or two, then let's tack on the third minute. And then from there, we're going to add on the fourth minute. So every week, you're going to add on an extra minute, or maybe every day, if you're really motivated, add on an extra minute. So I like to time my workouts and just put a timer. And when that timer goes off, you walk away. So don't feel pressured that you have to do this 30-minute workout or the 60-minute workout. Just commit to doing the 2 minutes and then adding time on every day or every week. That's a great starting point. So you got to pick the exercise that you like and pick the time block that you like and pick the amount of time. and then you can get started. And then have a calendar. I love calendars because you can just put a big red X on the date and connect all those red X's, connect all the tracking, and see how many times you can like keep that red X tracked on your calendar, how many times you can connect it. And so have a calendar near your workout area, near your yoga mat, have a water bottle and have a pen, a big red pen, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to get started and how you're not going to want to miss it. You're not going to want to miss your workout.
I love that because whenever I sort of first started on my health and fitness journey, there were so many things about my life that I felt needed change. My diet was a mess. Like I was stressed. Why do my kids like move so slow when I'm running late? And I really had to get into more of a proactive mode than just reactive. But it was very intimidating. And to the same point, like I read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy and just realized how significant the small things were in building up over time, kind of like compound interest, obviously. But I had sort of like, I don't know, discarded small efforts as like I needed to do these big sweeping changes and I was very much a perfectionist. So it was like if I wasn't doing all the things and at 110%, I was doing it wrong. And when I read that book and just realized the power of the small was where the magic really was, like everything changed for me. So I appreciate like that recommendation is also a great book. But what advice would you have for moms who are kind of just struggling balancing fitness and self-care, managing the chaos of just life? Because I know for a long time, I personally just felt like, oh, if I go work out, surely my kids will die. And I went to the gym and found out that they actually didn't.
Yeah.
But I had given into that narrative. And I think so much of our society thinks like, oh, moms need to put themselves on the back burner. But what advice would you give?
I would brain dump a list of what's a priority for yourself. Is fitness a priority or is cooking healthy meals a priority? Getting pregnant obviously is a priority. So write down, just brain dump a list of what's a priority and then rank them in order, top 10, what are the priorities in your life? And I am a huge advocate of having paper planners and seeing it on paper, physically writing it down. And on your paper planner, write down these top 10 priorities in your life and schedule them out first before you schedule out anything else. So, if fitness is a priority for you, put that 2 minutes or 5 minute workout at the top of your day or wherever it is in your day and schedule that in there. And then nothing else can get scheduled during that time. And if you want to, meal prep, that's important to you so that you can cook healthy meals. Put that in as a time block in your day. So, in order to juggle all the things and do them well, we need to schedule them out. That's the only way I know how, and it works really well. But we also have to just sort of take a step back and look at all the things. What are all the things that we want to do? And if it's unrealistic, well, then we might need to cut back on things and just say, like, this season of my life, I can't be doing this mommy and me play date, every week or whatever it is. So what is your main focus right now for this upcoming month, or what is your focus for this year? And schedule that out and just be intentional about when you're going to do that. Because if you're just thinking, I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm just going to do this, 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 and this, it's very unlikely it's going to occur. And reevaluate and reassess how your past month has been, and have you been able to accomplish those things that you wanted to accomplish? And if you haven't, let's put it on paper.
Yeah, I kind of went through that too, where I was like, I was of the camp of I'll never be a morning person. Like I'll never be somebody that works out first thing in the morning. And so I would try to do it in the afternoon. And every single time life would happen, I wouldn't get to it. And a day turned into a week, turned into a month. And I was like, I've just got to do this. And so I started by getting up just 15 minutes earlier. And then like it was so amazing having the time before my kids woke up to myself to get things done that by the time they woke up, like I was already had most of my, I mean, because it kind of turned into about, a 2 or 3 hour block at this point where I was getting up super early because I got so much accomplished in that time frame that by the time they woke up, I was no longer running in this reactive mode of like, why are you moving so slow? And it was a lot less, yelling and frustration on my part. So like if you're like me and we're like, oh, I can never be a morning person, you can. It's possible. And it might actually just rock your world. So I always say never.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd also like to encourage people at night. I think a majority of people spend their evenings scrolling and on screens. And I always encourage people to just take away 5 or 10 minutes of your scroll time and work out. If you really don't have time to work out throughout the whole day, substitute that time for some kind of exercise.
I love that. Um, so any advice that you would give to women who are maybe hesitant, like they're listening to this and they're like, yeah, that's great for you, but you don't even understand my life and schedule. Like, I know you recommended the book or whatever, but what's an important mindset shift that they need to make that you've seen maybe with your clients or even in your own life that would be helpful?
Yeah, the biggest thing is starting small. I would say that's the biggest mindset shift for most moms. Most moms come to me and they just can't stay consistent. And so the consistency factor has to do with, yeah, life happens, things get in the way, but can you find time throughout the day? It doesn't have to be all at once, but at various times where you are doing something fitness related. Another great thing that I love to do is habit stacking, where I know that I don't have to actually go to my home gym or go to an actual gym and work out, but I can just habit stack a workout after I do a certain thing in my day. So if I am going to the bathroom and I know that every time I go to the bathroom in my powder room that I'm going to do P squats and I might do 10 squats right after I go to the bathroom. Or when I'm sitting at the mic or standing at the microwave waiting for something to heat up, that I'm going to do calf raises. And so like there are different ways that we can incorporate fitness into our life. And so it's a mindset shift of I'm healthy. I'm going to be, working out throughout the day. I'm going to be moving my body throughout the day. I'm okay that I don't go to my actual gym, but as long as I'm moving my body in, challenging ways, maybe I go up the stairs faster instead of sluggishly going up the steps. Start getting your heart rate up throughout the day, and that's the start of that healthy mindset shift that we're trying to aim for, that you are healthy, you are fit. I will be doing this for the rest of my life. I will be staying active for the rest of my life. This is not just a season of health, this is forever. And so you got to start shifting your mind into thinking that way. And also, a big thing is hanging out with at least one person that is healthy or healthier than you to help motivate you and keep you accountable. When you're surrounded by people who talk about health, talk about what they're eating, and that it's, this healthy thing that I found at the grocery store, it's just going to feed into you more and it's going to make your healthy lifestyles that much easier.
I love that. I found that I kind of am a little bit competitive, but in the sense that I like to compete with myself. So whenever I kind of started making things like parking further away at the grocery store or taking the stairs or doing squats when I would go to the bathroom, I found that I like to sort of one up myself from one time to another. I mean, they say that that sitting is the new smoking. So we
Oh,
spend so much time sitting and we're not meant to do that. And in reality, you burn way more calories in a day by being active and moving than you would in a 30-minute or whatever, workout. So like I just made it into like a little competition with myself. Like, how can I integrate some kind of movement to challenge myself? And then you just feel so much more accomplished. And obviously there's a lot of endorphins and things and de-stressing that happens when you start doing that. So I think it is the power of the small that really adds up. So I love that emphasis. But before we jump off, I want to make sure everybody knows how to find you and your program. So if you could let us know about that, and then any kind of parting words or advice that you might want to share with somebody who's in the trenches of trying to conceive? They want to create healthy habits for their families, their future families. What do you got?
Yeah. First thing I want to say is I'm just excited for everybody who is trying to conceive. I'll be praying for this whole community. It's such a great podcast, and I'm so excited to be here. And I just want you to think about fitness as a lifestyle, but if you are overwhelmed by the entire body, I am a big advocate for just starting with the core. And so, my blog, Live Core Strong, the core is the foundation to everything. So if you can't do it all, just start with core strengthening, and you will feel so much more confident in your body with having a strong core. Going into childbirth and going into postpartum, when your core is strong, you will feel like an amazing rock star mom. So I just want to encourage you all to not feel overwhelmed by the whole body, but just to focus on one area. And if you are really excited about core strengthening and maybe rehabbing your body after having your baby, or let's say you had a C-section, or you are seeing that separation in your abs, which is called diastasis recti, I can help you with that. And that's what my program is all about. It's postpartum ab rehab. You can go to livecorestrong.com/program. It's a 6-month program, and I coach you along the way and help you basically regain your core strength and just feel amazing in your body, but just basically getting your body back to the way it used to be, if not stronger. So that is my program. But if you want to follow along to me and some of the content that I'm sharing, you can go to the Fit Postpartum Mom podcast. And if you want some free resources, I have a lot of free workouts and workout challenges on my blog. If you go to livecorestrong.com/join, you can see a bunch of free resources there. And I just love to have you in my community. So thank you for having me, Susan. It's been wonderful being here.
Thank you so much. And I'll make sure all of that stuff is in the show notes, because I know I've already referred a couple of clients your way, and most definitely after my C-section, I'll be coming to find you to help me with my recovery, because, things are just not the same at 44 as they were in my 20s with my other.
Yeah.
And of course, this is my 4th one, so that's a whole other ball game for sure. So thank you so much for taking time to be here to share wisdom and just encouragement that, yes, life is crazy, but like, you as the mom, you're worth it. And we shouldn't feel guilty about taking care of ourselves, because I always say that the ones we love the most get the best when we're at our best. So I think it's so important to like share that, and not the hustle culture and, the busy, like wearing busyness as a badge of honor is not really a badge of honor. So thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you very much. And we'll make sure everybody can get connected with you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me on Conceiving After Vasectomy Reversal. I hope you're feeling encouraged and more hopeful on your journey to growing your family. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little extra support. I absolutely love reading your reviews. They mean the world to me. Like, seriously, words of affirmation are my love language. So let's stay connected. Find me on Instagram at conceivingaftervr, and join our Conceiving After Vasectomy Reversal Facebook community for even more support and encouragement. I believe that God placed the desire for a child on your heart for a reason, and I'm grateful to walk alongside you in this season, to encourage you, and to help you find joy in the journey, trusting that His plan is greater than we could ever imagine.
Thanks for listening.